Morning, Gerri. Here we are again.
Hello. There is so much on my mind. I am absolutely buzzing. You know how when there's too much in your head and it's almost like you've got to download because a lot does happen in our profession.
So much happens.
There's always lots to think about.
True.
And take that as you will, whether that's a good or a bad thing. Are you ready to hear the epic stuff?
Yep, off you go.
I attended a national conference. And because of the nature of COVID, it was virtual, although it's being held in a secret city where there is no lockdown. Or, in fact, no masks. These people sitting at tables together. Shocking.
Okay, yes, like they did in the olden days before COVID. Righto, yes.
Yes.
Righto.
So I was in the Zoom coming in from the computerised interweb with the other delegates in their lockdown environment.
Okay.
But I had not been to an eating disorder conference for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
Possibly more than 10 years. So that has prompted me to reflect on the changes and also prompted me to reflect on, I guess, what conferences mean to me, which is actually a huge issue. And you know, Imi, that as I look back, I really think that I'm remembering the good more than the bad.
I think that's the nature of nostalgia, isn't it?
Is it? You think it's nostalgic? We're nostalgic for the times when we used to go to conferences.
You forget the horrors of camping. You just remember the wine, the cheese, and the sunset. You don't remember the setting up the tent in the rain and everyone whinging and cold. You don't remember that, strangely. Anyway, nostalgia. Okay, yes.
Yes. So there was some nostalgia.
Yeah.
Now, and it was also, I guess, interesting and informative to watch that world from the relative position of an outsider. And they did some things at the conference really, really well. There's no doubt about it. First of all, it must be said they had a pretentious tagline.
Awesome. I love a pretentious tagline. What was it? Let's have it. It reminds me of the Housewives.
Where is the pretentious tagline?
Yeah.
Having to highlight it.
Quick, ruffle your papers and look busy.
Yes, it was from ripples to rivers. How far we've come.
Oh, we're so creative when we squash all of our artistic talents into a tagline. Oh, geez, we're good.
Mm-hmm.
I like the use of the word ripples. That sort of, it just implies wind on the top of a still lake, just sort of disturbing slightly the calmness.
Maybe they changed their tagline because I seem to recall something around the nature of onward towards the sea.
Well, the counselling psych one that I really liked was Catalysts for Change. It sounded very revolutionary, but I think that was short-lived. I don't know what it is at the moment. It's probably on an umbrella I've got or something. Anyway.
It's all about the tagline, isn't it?
It's all about the tagline.
The organisation that has probably been most formative towards me and influential conference-wise is the AACBT, which is the Australian Association of Cognitive Behaviour Therapists. And their tagline is...
What's their tagline?
It's coming up. Their tagline is recovery and reconnection.
Oh, it's so delightful. Really, it's nice, isn't it? It's real nice.
I didn't. I'm coming to this with a bit of a sarcastic framework, but you're loving the tagline.
No, I'm conflicted because I get that tone, I'm probably having an internal process myself because before we hopped on, I said I have had a big day yesterday. We're all miserable in lockdown in my secret city. Everyone's going absolutely bananas. But we won't pull focus on that moment. So I'm trying to be professionally positive as well. Now, perhaps that's coming off as insincere. And maybe there's a certain amount of truth for that. I don't know. Yeah, anyway, Gerri, keep talking.
Are you not filled with love and joy and stimulation?
It's a professional skill. Professionally speaking, I absolutely am. On a personal level, it's more complex than that.
Yes.
But it'll become clear as we go forward, because I will just trust the process and see what happens next. Like, we do our mindfulness. Keep going, Gerri. You've got to be in your bonnet.
Do you want to hear some stories?
Yes, I do. I do want to hear some stories. I love a story from you.
Well, yes. Someone once said to me many years ago that the only thing which changes about an eating disorders conference is the hairstyles of the women who attend.
Oh, you're so funny.
No, I don't agree.
You don't agree. Okay.
I think they're like over 10 years. I think there was change. And
okay, what was the change? Now, not being an aficionado of the eating disorder practice, what has changed, do you think? What's changed?
The people changed. Some people had retired. It was much bigger and more powerful. This was evidenced by the fact that in a global pandemic, the Federal Health Minister was part of the opening ceremony. Wow. So I guess that's a message of where some of the power lies. And they did the things. First of all, what they've always done well, or what has been my experience, is a sense of shared purpose. We're all here against the pain and the suffering of eating disorders.
Sure.
So that was well done and wonderful to be a part of. The other thing that they do well-ish is involve consumers, and sometimes I think that is really good, and sometimes it can cross over into cringy, query, even exploitative.
Yeah. Oh dear, that is it's very
so having said that, some conferences never even try. So, full marks there.
Yeah.
And in general, this is a product of me getting older, but in general, people seemed younger and possibly shinier.
Shinier. You are shinier when you're younger, I think.
I
think you might be. I think there's more attention to personal grooming, if I'm honest.
That was the product also, that the conference wasn't held in a city with lockdown.
Yes, you can't go to the hairdresser at the moment. That's true. It's funny you should bring this up, because I was sort of dwelling on this issue about getting older in the profession and what that means. Like on paper or theoretically, we should have more refined skill sets, Gerri. We should be able to do things more efficiently and expertly. But I don't know if that's the way the young people see us, the young practitioners see us. I think after the nationalisation of the boards in Australia, which happened in 2010, it seemed to have a knock-on effect to the training requirements. The first thing that happened was all of the APS college training, master's degrees disappeared, and clinical psych was the only one left. And then this very odd, they don't call it a general psychologist's master's, but they just call it Masters of Psychological Practice came out, okay, and then you did like a year of that or a year and a half of that, and then you did a year of practice, and then you got your license or your registration. And I think, I mean, I understand the need for standardising, but it sort of reduces the creativity in practice. That's what I'm starting to notice. I'm not sure if you observed this in any way at the conference, but it's sort of, I don't want to use the word diluted, but it's standardised, the training, in a very, I don't find it that interesting way. It's harder to develop a practice style now because things are very regimented. Like there's these techniques. You become a technician rather than an artist. Like a mechanic rather than a painter or something. Which I'm, or a collaborator even, like, you know. And is that relevant?
Yes, it is relevant. It's possibly analogous to standardizing the high school syllabus. For example, it is great. People learn things that it's decided what we need to know or decided what is best, but you lose something because one of the hugely interesting things when you talk to someone professionally or even personally is where did you grow up? What did you learn? But now we're all going to do the same books for senior. We're all going to learn the same thing. We're all going to have very similar experiences, and that's possibly going to be we're going to have similar experiences in what we learn. So, now I am among the most, I like to think of myself. I'm sure I always fall down, but this is a core value that I'm strongly evidence-based and, well, you know, I've talked about my favorite conference organization is the AACBT. I'm a member of the Australian Clinical Psychology Association, so my professional organization, and in fact myself, I agree with these values very, very strongly that there is a specific skill set in clinical psychology and an area of content that you need to know, and there's also a process. However, having said all of that, I still know what you mean because the word strategy makes me absolutely cringe. So in my time, I've had a particular clientele, usually a very stressed out mum who wants me to give their adolescent or young adult daughter strategies.
Oh, bless. I love that client. Quick, fix them. Quick.
And I think, well, do you really need me? Just look at the Sunday paper, you know?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. That's like, what exactly are we? Gerri, that's a very, yes, I know that case. I know that case very well.
But we are getting to the heart of the matter because this is what I was really thinking because I was really, when you go to a conference, right? When I go to a conference.
When one buggers off to a conference.
Well, I mean, that's the key part of a conference, isn't it? You want it to be away from your family.
Yeah, exactly.
So
you want to have a little bit of fun between the snoring. Sorry, that was wrong.
But the positive thing about a conference, because there is lots to bitch about, and I'm here for that. There's no doubt about it.
Oh, it's debriefing. That's all we're doing. We're debriefing.
Exactly. But the really positive thing is that many, many people are there. In fact, even the majority of people are there saying to themselves, how can I be better at what I do?
No, I love that. I'll tell you what, psychologists are doing a hell of a job right now, if anyone's listening who's in the game. And I also think provisional psychs should be allowed to charge Medicare rebates because we desperately need them. Like we don't have enough of us at the moment. We just don't. People are booked out, can't take more clients. Just had to quickly say they had a bit of surge of energy, Gerri. Just had some,
yes,
came up for air. Right.
Yes, this was highlighted at the conference, and this is one thing that they did very well. They did very well at being non-defensive about this is what we've done, this is what's going to happen, and this is what you have to do. And what that was around was the area of accreditation.
Oh, okay.
And so that was actually really well done. So we're seeing similar themes here because the great paradigm, I need a word, Emmy, the great tension in accreditation is, well, if we put accreditation in, then will there be less people to help?
Right.
So
you're talking about accreditation for eating disorders, is that right?
Yes. So that is coming in before the end of the year, but it's also kind of what you were talking about. Is provisional psychs giving them Medicare rebates would
they need
solve a workforce problem. But does the quality of care decrease? Is there enough, in inverted commas, because I'm not talking about a formal accreditation, but is there enough accreditation? And will everybody be safe, right?
Well, they've done,
but will people also get the best possible care? And
now I'm hearing that critic come in again, Gerri, and you're doing your clinical psych perfectionist thinking. Let's just park that for a minute. So what we've got here is we've got the young folk. They've got a provisional registration. They've got supervisory structures in place. They've done all the theory. They're ready to go. Do you know? We're talking about 10 sessions under Medicare. And even if you just get your stride with a few strategies, some Rogerian reflective
strategies,
get going, get on the road. You're licensed to drive. Let's start. I mean, clients need it. We don't have enough of us. Let's get on with it. If you were a registrar in a hospital, if you were in the medical training model, you'd be working by now. So
I don't know.
What do you think the problem is? They've got 5 years under their belt by the time they've got provisional status. That's a lot.
It's a lot, but is it a lot? I'm not sure I accept it's a lot.
You don't think 5 years is a lot?
I don't accept 5 years as a lot, because what do you do in those 5 years?
You learn how to think like a scientist. You learn all the developmental theory. You learn all the theory.
Yes.
I mean, so by the time you've met the provisional registration requirements, you've already got 2 supervisors on in the structure.
Yes.
If you won't be able to just open up your own shop, because I think that's just daunting anyway. But you go and work for another psychologist. So there's already lots of oversight. There's lots of oversight. What do you think they're going to do? Like, would you say the same thing about a kid learning to drive? Do you think they need more time in behind a computer screen or something?
I'm not sure.
What are you worried about?
What am I worried about?
Well, actually, just on that subject, not that we're revealing states, I remember looking at the bloody provisional psych training requirements across states before the national board was implemented, and New South Wales was particularly light on with requirements. Like Queensland was pretty intense, Victoria was pretty intense, WA was pretty intense. Lots of things to do, lots of hoops to jump through. But New South Wales was particularly light on. It was like, just show up and breathe, and then we'll, let 2 years go, and then you can be a psych. And it was a bit. The standard was not as sophisticated as the other states. So I don't know if there's a legacy of that perhaps you're aware of. Because you seem very nervous about provisional psychs allowing them to work. What's that about, dude? I'm seriously curious.
It's about 2 things. So I'll speak generally first, and then more personally.
Okay.
Generally, in terms of the Western world.
Right.
Right. So I don't know. And that I guess is mainly I'm referring to the United States or the UK, but perhaps not just the English-speaking world, like Europe, Japan. Provisional psychology is a very, very it's not a lot of years. I've heard that it's actually the lowest requirements in the Western world.
That's the tagline clinical psychs have been trotting out for a long time, but I don't think it actually holds up under proper investigation. Like,
possibly.
Like I think it's just a bit of propaganda, to be honest, to bolster their own flagging self-image. Like, I think clinical psychs as a group don't have a very well-developed sense of personal identity, and they bolster it with "we are excellent," and therefore I'm okay, you are not okay. If you're okay, I can't be. There's this weird binary perceptual distortion that seems to go on, and it's got nothing to do with young psychologists starting their career. It's got nothing to do with that.
I think it does have something to do with that, because this is where we do go more personal.
Okay.
And I reflect back and I think to myself, was I ready after honours?
Well, there's a self-regulating component to this. Like, for example, say this was allowed. Clients also can reject you, and if it's because they're paying, right? So if they're not, if they don't perceive they're getting anything out of the service you're offering, they won't return.
But that's not efficient. That's not efficient if we're trying to reduce suffering and help the mental health of Australia.
Well, wow, there's so much in what you just said there. It's impossible to know how to respond to it, Gerri.
Well, you don't have to respond. I don't think that was too...
Well, it's hard to have a meaningful dialogue about that, because it's just there's a lot in what you just said that you've squashed a lot of detail into the statement that, you know, relieving suffering, relieving anyone's suffering is, ask the Buddhists, life's all about suffering. Like, you know, that's a really complicated goal to have.
Yeah, that is like, what do we want to do? Like, what we haven't defined the problem. Like now, what do we want to do? We want to reduce the waiting lists. We want people to have a basic kind of psychological care. Like, what are we trying to do?
And I think this is where psychology has been reduced to technician status. Like, you're teaching skills, you're establishing sleep routines, you know, you're teaching how to manage affect states. Like, you know, like, it's not that if that's what you're doing for Medicare, that's not super complicated.
But you can't. This is the tricky thing. You can't know in session one if that's what you're doing, or if the person has complex and chronic mental health disorders. Or
but they're not going to make it to a
even just a little bit, or is even just a little bit tricky. You know.
Of course, they're tricky. Some of them,
or multi-layered. And there is no and they won't make it to a provisional psych. Like, probably you're right, but there is no actual regulatory.
Well, the client, except that the client themselves have to kind of connect to you, and that's where the skill set comes in, and it takes years to refine that ability to build rapport to such a diverse level and have the stamina to do it as well. So, but how do you learn? You've got to get in the deep end.
I don't think it is just that, though. I think it is, we're talking about skills, right? We're talking about skills of assessment and treatment, but we're talking about the relationship. We're talking about a lot of things. We're talking about a knowledge base. But you know what? We're actually also talking about a process. And the process is different for different trainings and labels in psychology.
I think this is where we're having a bit of a problem with psych at the moment. We've generalised the training to such a degree that it's lost that diversity of skill set, which used to be self-initiated. Like if you had a particular interest, you could join an interest group or even work your way to joining a college if you were a member of the Australian Psychological Society. So it used to be a bit more organic. Some of it's become, streamlined and standardised and endorsed by the board in the form of endorsements where there is stipulated training requirements. So you can be endorsed in clinical psychology or endorsed in counselling psychology. And I think these Australians, in my view, they love an accreditation. We love accreditation. And I think it offsets our feelings of low self-esteem and fear about doing it wrong. But I don't think it actually solves the problem. I don't think, because becoming highly skilled in any specialised clinical presentation takes years, it takes ages. And just because you might have a skill set in it doesn't mean your peers will necessarily recognise you. And it doesn't necessarily mean that the client group will recognise you. It's very complicated.
Yeah, matching those two things is a challenge enough in itself.
So I get that the accreditation is an attempt to sort of build a bridge between those goals, but I don't know. I think we love accreditation in Australia. We just love a membership of something. But I don't know if it solves the problem exactly of becoming competent in this area. And it's possibly like mental health is a community collective issue that we're still trying to work out what to do about.
Yes. You've kind of fallen into my cunning trap.
Oh, God.
Because...
Oh, you're so funny.
I learned two interesting things, right?
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I'm reading Bree. What is Bree's last name? I'm pretty sure.
Bree? Oh, Bree.
Bree's written Who Gets to Be Smart. And
bless.
Is perhaps a little bit too smart a book for me. I'm kind of skipping some pages.
You got booted. Okay, all right, you were bounced. Okay.
But yes, as the name would suggest, who gets to be smart, who gets to be an expert appears to be the theme. And she points out some really good things. That white men generally get to decide what's important to study, and huge bodies of knowledge, such as the knowledge of Aboriginal people, that they don't get to be smart because their body of knowledge is not
good point.
decreed.
It doesn't have status.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a really good point, isn't it? And then at the conference, there was a model. And as I saw the model, I thought, Imi would love this model because...
You're so funny. Okay, yes.
Because it's really... clinical psychology loves a model, and a conference loves a model, and put those things together. Is fantastic. So one of the speakers... got a model.
Yes.
One of the speakers was Timothy D. Brewerton from Medical University of South Carolina. But he talked about key features of trauma-informed care. It was, Timothy brought some stuff to the table.
Look at you coming in research. I love it, Gerri. You're such a good professional. Where's my stickers?
But wait till you hear this. You'll love it. Okay. First of all, you've got to visualize a triangle.
I'm
and lots
triangle.
Of good models are in the shape of a triangle.
I love a triangle.
The food pyramid, for example.
The rescuer, perpetrator, victim triad. That's a good one.
But also the kind of behavioral interventions with children triangle in parenting. At the bottom, you have like praise and play, because they're the ones you want to do more of. And then,
awesome.
Then you've got rules, and then you go up.
The technical aspect.
Okay. But of course, my favorite triangular model is the Dilbert hierarchy of workers' needs.
I think that's a lesser known clinical tool, but still nonetheless.
Very profound.
Yes.
Wide applicability.
Yes, absolutely.
Wide applicability because the baseline is fizzy caffeinated drinks.
Good. Yeah.
And then the next step up, so you need quite a lot of this because this is sort of like the middle of the triangle, solving a crisis of your own making.
Yes, good one, Gerri. Now you're getting warm. Love the role of crisis in therapy.
Okay, but right, you ready for the serious model?
Yeah, I'm ready.
The serious model is mechanisms by which adverse childhood experiences influence health and well-being throughout the lifespan. So at the bottom, you have generational embodiment historical trauma, right?
Yes.
And this is what we talk about all the time.
Yes, we do.
This is often
This is the work.
If
anyone's confused, this is the work.
Yeah, but the next step up, right, there's maybe a lot of levels in the triangle, so just hold out, there. The next level up is social conditions, local context.
Oh, he's so good. Wow.
Yeah, often fully neglected as well in the world of psychology. Not so much in my field, in my work in public health. We're pretty...
You're onto that. Onto community variables, like environmental variables in the world around. Okay, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. Like resources.
Then we've got the latest buzzwords, although the construct does appear to stand up, although it is called different things in different fields. Adverse childhood experiences.
Sure.
And then next one up is disrupted neurodevelopment.
Oh,
so your brain changes.
Yes, the brain. Oh, my God. That's good, this dude. Yeah.
I don't even know if it's his model, but
he's pretty comprehensive, and I like that he's telling the world about especially the brain changes. That's a real bastard.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and
the evidence trying to heal that is
the evidence
technically difficult.
The evidence is there as well.
The evidence is there.
Previously, when my child was about to start school, I became obsessed by school readiness, which kind of makes sense. And it wasn't. All right. Do you have doubts that this was a good thing to be obsessed by?
No, I'm just noticing a post truck out the front of my place, and I'm thinking, I don't think the doorbell rang. Anyway, sorry, slightly distracted. Get back to the school readiness thing.
Okay. Stay with
I was going, where's that? Did they deliver a package? No. Anyway, back to school readiness, right? Your kid, you're getting ready, you're being diligent, you're doing the clinical psych bit, you're frightened of you failing and all that jazz. You're offsetting that with focusing on school readiness. Okay, I'm with you. Yeah,
I'm not sure I totally agree that was an accurate paraphrase. But anyway, moving along.
Noted.
In fact, in defense of clinical psychology, I will say through reading the literature, I found some research heroes, and I also read some really profound and informative stuff which has had generalizability.
Can I just make a request of the clinical psychs everywhere? You can be okay and we can be okay as well. We can both be okay at the same time. The price of you being okay is not that we are not okay.
That is extremely true. But if you read something and you learn something and science inspires you, is that clinical psychology or is that just freaking wonderful?
I love that. It's just you're learning something using rationalism, Gerri. That's awesome. You're learning a relationship between two variables and you're trying to control one to change the other. Sounds good.
Not only that, you're learning nuances and differences in things that are held to be true. I will just briefly go on this tangent, even though I'm sure you're excited to hear the rest of the triangle model.
I am. Yep.
The marshmallow experiment is held to be...
Oh, the marshmallow experiment.
I know. Everyone's going to eye roll because anyone who's ever seen the dogma maybe a slight skerrick of doubt comes into their minds, but the kids with higher degrees of self-control resist longer and go on to,
they
longitudinal greatness, right?
Yeah, they better planning skills, self-control.
As this model says, right, why would you have increased self-control? Why would you have better executive functionings, planning, impulse control if you live in a world that is random and unpredictable? Of course that's not going to develop, right? Because why would it develop?
Good point. That's a good point.
Good point. It's a brilliant point.
Yeah, it's a very good point.
People adapt in order for their environment. So those kids who did so, in inverted commas, doing the little bunny ears well in the marshmallow experiment, were in fact from environments that supported and taught that. Not everybody lives in that environment, therefore that skill doesn't develop. Other skills develop.
Makes sense. Good argument.
Yeah. So disrupted neurodevelopment is that the neurodevelopment's probably specific for the situation, which is adversive or chaotic or whatever. It looks like I've just lost you. Did you not like that?
No, sorry. I'm just thinking about a case that this is relevant to, but it's okay. I'm with you. I'm just multitasking.
Okay. Yeah. And so the next, we're at disruptive neurodevelopment as we go up the pyramid, right?
Yeah.
And this isn't really a pyramid of things that are common. Maybe this is actually a kind of longitudinal path. Maybe this should actually be a model with arrows leading to things. And possibly my favorite part of a model, the bidirectional arrow. Anyway.
You're such a delight for me, Gerri. You just remind me of another way to live.
Okay, but now we're on to social, emotional, and cognitive impairment, okay?
Yeah.
So case in point, we're mixing up constructs here, but I'm sure everybody's following along. A child with low school readiness, right, is perceived as social, emotional, and cognitive impairment, and probably is for, the beginning of formal schooling. Then we have the adoption of health risk behaviour. This is where I not disagree with the model, but have doubts, because I think adoption of health risk behaviours could come in lower. I think that could be in parallel to many of the other parts of it. I guess this is more of a theoretical model. And then we have next coming up disease, disability, and social problems.
Yeah.
And at the very top in that little pointy pyramid bit of the triangle is early death, indicating that, this is serious, and has, as if the other things didn't indicate this, but has profound societal kind of implications.
I mean, good model, good description.
Yes, isn't it?
Yeah, good description, good summary of the dilemma that we've all, helps you conceptualise. But how do you use it, Gerri? What do we do to fix the problem, to alleviate the suffering? How do we use that model?
Exactly, and maybe it's different at different points of the triangle.
Yeah.
We come to the obvious conclusion that we can't do everything.
No.
That there are societal forces at work.
Definitely are.
But where are we in the model? I don't know. I guess we're kind of.
Well, these are great questions, I think. And I suppose you've got to position yourself in an area of the picture that you believe, based on everything you know, everything you've learned, you can have some positive impact on the situation.
Yes, or at least, doing an and here, just acknowledging the dialectic and acknowledging that the rest of the model is out there.
Oh, sure. Like a terrain. That's like a map of the terrain.
Yes, because otherwise where we go or the direction we go in is essentially blaming the client.
Don't be blaming the client. Well,
I'm not. I'm saying we've got to have awareness.
Totally need awareness.
Got to go to conference, learn things, have awareness, and not blame people. It's a great path.
I mean, look, I think a strengths-based approach is not like Pat McGorry, who we all love, Australian of the Year. He initiated in my secret city a council level intervention, which is a bit similar to the Triple P parenting program that we came out of Queensland Uni. I think it's not exactly the same, but it focuses on building strength and resilience factors within a community as a way of offsetting some of these forces. And there's lots of research to say that it raises kids' achievements on lots of levels. So you want to have like sporting clubs available and, activities and after school care and all that stuff in the community funded by council. And it just provides a layer of protection to children in vulnerable situations. And so that's like a systemic level intervention, and that probably is slightly outside what most psychologists do in practice. But if you know about that stuff, you can support the development of those strengths within children, which bolster them to handle the distress of their home environments or the dilemmas of being a lot. Because suffering and being human go together. And I think some of it is you have to work out how to get into right relationship with the situation. I might see this a bit more, don't want to claim Buddhist knowledge, but I kind of am with the Buddhists on this. Like, they don't pretend there's no suffering. They've just got ways of being with it so that it doesn't crush you.
This, can I make a wider point though?
Oh, yeah, sure.
At the moment, in our secret countries, so many things are not working.
Oh, no, I know.
And I even think, this is just a personal opinion, but they probably were never working. It's just that they're under greater degrees of stress because of COVID, because of the bushfires, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, let's go to the platypuses, right?
Yes.
The platypuses that died in the bushfires, we don't have any kind of backup fragile ecosystem transfer them to. There was not enough of them before the bushfires. Anyway,
Good point.
That got really serious.
And platypus are a very gentle sort of essence. We got a few living in my neighbourhood. Yeah, they're very secret little creatures. It's hard to see. You don't see them very often. They're very quiet. And they have burrows and they're the dark horse of the animal world because they're also very efficient. Just one tube through the body. Something I like about that. Why can't one orifice do all the work? They are a funny creature. I know, a little funny you should mention platypus. I remember going to Lone Pine 100 years ago. I really wanted to see the platypus. I was about 10. And anyway, this poor little creature was in an aquarium for the bloody tourists to look at, and it had a fluoro light on the top, and there was nowhere for this little creature to sit on a rock or it was, and I could feel the pain of this creature, and I was so upset about it. Still need debriefing and support around. And so I hated seeing that platypus in that condition. It was awful. The poor little thing, because they don't like light. They're designed to deal with darkness more than light. They sense things, they've got this very sensitive bill. Anyway, so
I'm not glossing over that.
No, right.
I do want you to know that Taronga Zoo has them in a darkened room.
Oh,
but
good.
see, this is the interconnectedness of all things, because why were you at Lone Pine? And I put it to you that if we zip back into the past, it is cultural even now. I mean, I'm sure other nations have their version of this, but it's very Australian to get a picture of your kid with some kind
with
of
a kangaroo.
marsupial.
Yeah, that's where we went. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think like a lot of Aussie families, I did that, oldest child,
Oh,
photograph with the koala.
with the kangaroo or the koala.
By the time we got to the youngest child, it was a bit, we were opening up to other things other than koalas. But
they forget things like Christmas.
He can have a parrot.
Yeah. I was so excited to go to Lone Pine on this occasion. I believe it was for my birthday, even worse. So we all dressed up. I was in the lemon bloody pants, looking I had that was disgraceful 1980s headband on. The terry toweling roll. It was just awful, and I didn't even like it at the time. I was dressed by my mother. And anyway, so we get there, we line up, and can't wait to hold the koala. And the guy who put the koala on me was really mean, and it was so upsetting. And then the bloody platypus I saw the platypus. Probably the platypus and I felt the same way. We weren't happy. We were not happy. And it wasn't a great moment, and I was sort of upset about it for ages. Losses in childhood.
Yeah.
What are the losses, though?
Yeah, or stuff that isn't.
It's just not right.
Really matching what children would like.
No, you think you say, "Oh, we'll go and hold the koala, get a photo with the koala," and all I could feel was that because koalas are high all the time from eating eucalyptus leaves, so they were actually didn't really mind so much,
The perfect creature for that.
It's like they're bonging on, but they just eat the eucalyptus, so they're sort of dazed a bit. But it just felt bad,
Yeah.
And the guy.
I can't remember my koala photograph experience, although there are visual aids of when I was a child.
There's evidence that it happened.
But as you're speaking, this makes so much sense, right?
Does it?
Yeah.
Okay,
why did we do this? Why did I perpetrate
Gerri.
it on the next generation?
Did you perpetrate?
I'm experiencing a bit of guilt.
Well, I think it's got to do with relationship and not knowing how to build one. Like just genuinely not knowing how, except to use dominance or a form of dominance. It's a very basic primate strategy. Do what I want. Attachment behaviour.
Maybe I shouldn't have kissed that kangaroo on the nose.
I kissed the kangaroo too, and he was slobbing all over me. I was trying to give him some corn. Oh, I still remember that. I know.
I still remember it because it was when I was an adult.
Oh.
Anyway.
Oh, well,
perhaps I shouldn't have revealed that.
Kangaroos are. One day we lived in suburban Queensland, just whatever. And one day this pair of kangaroos just hops down the street. As they'd bless them, they'd escaped from Lone Pine. It's a great big moment in the suburban news. Anyway, we're sitting watching cartoons Saturday morning, as you do, and bloody, these two kangaroos are out in the laundry courtyard just hopping around. Now, the Indigenous elders tell me, I think I can say this, that they can travel, the elders, alive or dead, can travel in kangaroos and go and check on you. I think maybe that might have been happening that day. Anyway, we had to call Lone Pine and get the rangers to come and collect. They were big roos too. They were like not quite 6 foot, but about 5'8", maybe. They just hopped around.
They weren't wallabies. They were like a huge creature.
They were really tall roos. And anyway, it's the weirdest thing. I was thinking about this the other day, and now it's come up today. Australian animals are in our session today, Gerri. We've got the platypus. That's like more like a feminine spirit. It's a very gentle. Well, just imagine if you want to know what the essence of an animal is, just imagine what it feels like like you're at kinder and pretend to be the platypus, you'll get an idea of it. But roos are like leaping forward in joy. That's one of the things that they mean.
They're beautiful, efficient movers, aren't they?
But they always go forward. They can't go backwards.
They also like to be put in a sack. I'm not totally sure what that means. But
pouch? Yeah. It's attachment behaviour maybe. I remember being put in the pouch.
Yeah, and apparently if you need, it's apparently once you get them in the bag, it is really easy to transfer a kangaroo because they're very calm when they're in a sack.
Because their mummy put them in their pouch when they were little.
Yeah.
Kangaroos are really, they can stop the development of an embryo if there's not enough food or water around. They're really interesting animals. And they use hardly any energy bouncing forwards because of the counterweight of their tail.
They look like that. They look like an efficient mover.
They are very efficient.
They look like they're not breaking a sweat. I know that's a human concept, but
they also box. They fight like each other. The adult roos do. Anyway, what are we talking about? We'll go back to your triangle. Did we finish your triangle? I
am overexcited by the triangle.
Okay.
And
you love a model.
I knew you'd love the triangle. Maybe next time we can talk about circles because
I like a circle too. Yeah.
You like an overlapping Venn diagram?
I don't mind a Venn diagram. You can see that on my board, on my whiteboard behind me. I have to do diagrams with couples about now this is this part of you and it's talking to that part and we're not having the same conversation. We've got to slow it down. We've got to speak authentic. We've got to say what we mean and make sure we're understanding what the other person's saying. Couples work is a lot of refereeing and it's like kinder in some ways. It's like, now what did you say? Now what did your friend say? Okay, now there's a lot of hurt here. I shouldn't just.
Yeah.
At some point, we're going to have to forgive. How will we get to that point? And after that, we're not bringing it up again.
Or the interconnectedness of all things. The ultimate tagline. Tagline for this idea is the title of Aaron Beck's book, which is actually a cognitive behavioral book.
Yeah.
But the title is Love is Never Enough. So I guess, you also need skills. You need acknowledgement. You need different ways of thinking about things. You need different ways of behaving. And that expresses that. And the book expresses another powerful idea that things are not just what they seem. Things have a greater symbolism. So in marital therapy, that's exemplified by taking out the garbage is more than just taking out the garbage or not taking out the garbage.
It's never about the garbage or the washing up.
Never about the garbage or the washing up.
No.
These things have a wider symbol, a greater symbol. As our discussion has revealed, so do triangles and platypuses and the movement of kangaroos.
Yeah, so leaping forward in joy. Good one, Gerri.
Right. Hey, that could be our conference tagline.
Yeah, it's a good one. We'll take the kangaroo with us. Leaping forward in joy, because we can't go backwards. We've got to try and figure out a way to go forwards, even in COVID, even in lockdown.
Absolutely. Right. Let's go forward again. Bye.
Gosh darn it. Look at that time. All right. See you next time. Bye, Gerri.
Bye.